no one in our organization gets paid, right? So I'm a full-time volunteer as the executive director, co-founder, all the hats that I wear, $0.
Got it.
There's nobody that will ever get paid in our organization. We will never have a full-time paid staff. We'll pay professional fees as far as, if we need something done with our accounting or whatever, but not 1 cent goes towards a salary of any shape or form.
Is that regulated? Is that like a regulation?
Nope. That's a decision that we made.
Okay.
So this is that fine line where I actually agree with you that operating a nonprofit is like sticky and icky sometimes, right? And I think that other people do it differently because they have to. But larger organizations have to have paid staff, right? Because that's what makes it run. So they make a lot of money, right? And they pay people. It's like a regular business. It's just, I guess what the nonprofit status really does is it allows them to get money. And then also we're regulated as to how we spend that money, right? So I have to, even though I don't pay taxes, I have to file forms with the IRS that tell them how much I was given to me or to us and who gave it to us. There are certain levels of funding that have to be reported in different ways. And so people can also restrict funding. So if you wanted to give me $10,000, you could say, I would like to give you this $10,000 gift, but I don't want it spent on this, this, and this. I want it to only go towards this particular program.
Got it.
And so you can restrict your funding. I also have to be fully transparent with my financials. But yes, we can make money. That's how we do what we do. I mean, it wouldn't work if I didn't continuously hustle for profit.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, co-founder of Red's Good Vibes food truck, Caitlin McGrath-Levesque. Caitlin, my lady, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm
always
psyched to have you here.
I am psyched to be here.
I try not to do too much research before an interview.
Yeah.
But I've been kind of toying around with this idea of 501c3, so I've been curious. And you had this podcast and a TED Talk, and I was like, dare I hit play on these and know too much? I had to pause halfway through the podcast because I was like, I'm learning too much, but I got really excited.
Awesome.
I'm stoked to have you here. You're here because Taryn Merrill from Fresh AF Bake Shop called you out. She's a fangirl of what you're doing.
I'm a fangirl too of her.
She's pretty great.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she's killing it out there in Plastown, New Hampshire. Yeah. So I can't wait to dive into who you are and how you got to where you are today and what you're doing. But let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Okay, so if you know me, I kind of fly by the seat of my pants. I'm less of a planner here. I mean, you kind of said it. I didn't do a lot of research. I mean, I watched some of your podcasts and things like that. And for us, I think success, starts with intent, right? So it's not about the result. So for us, I mean, I guess it's just fucking try.
Yeah.
Oh, if that needs to be beeped, just try.
Our target audience is restaurant owners. We sail like sailors, we curse like sailors.
Yeah. Great. I'll fit right in.
You're fine. So why that? Why just fucking try?
For us, it's simple, right? I think that our business or our nonprofit, right? We hesitate to call it a business, but I mean, essentially that's what it is, right? We really just have formed what we've done with the foundation of being who we are, being authentic. And so instead of leading with ego and all of these things, we just lead with an idea and we try. We're not afraid to fail, because that's part of it. Yeah.
And then you see things like paralysis by analysis where you never start because you want it to be just right. Just start.
It also doesn't have to be this huge idea.
Right.
Start with the little one.
Yeah.
Start with something.
Just try and do good work and be ready to adapt. But just starting is the hardest part.
Correct.
Yeah. Great way to get this thing started. So before we kind of go back and start sharing your story, just real quick for me, paint the picture of what is Red's Good Vibes today.
So, I mean, basically we are a nonprofit organization, which we call Grassroots because we started it ourselves as nonprofit, not nonprofit people. And so currently we have 2 free meal food trucks that we serve free meals from. And then we have a network of community fridges, and we also support mutual aid projects to kind of have smaller groups do things with our support.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
When did you start?
2019 we formulated. Yeah.
Going on 5 years.
Going on 5 years.
Wild.
Freaking crazy.
So before this, you were not nonprofit people.
No, not
So
any.
what were you doing before this?
So I'm a nurse by trade.
Okay.
My sister is a nurse practitioner and my brother does property development. So the three of us started it together and none of us had food service or nonprofit experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was going on in your life where you're like, let's start a food truck?
Yeah. So Red's Good Vibes formed because our brother passed away. And so his nickname was Red. And it was one of his dreams. He was in food service. And so one of his dreams was to own a food truck to, sustain his life, but be also able to give free meals away for free to people that needed them. And so when he passed, we couldn't find an opportunity that meant something to us that would mean something to him to honor him. So we tried volunteering our time at local nonprofits. We tried to do things that he enjoyed. We tried to donate our money to things, but it just felt icky and not authentic to who he was. And
Tell
we really
me more
wanted
about
to.
your brother. Who was he? So he worked in the hospitality industry, or
Yeah, so he was a prep cook, a cook, a server, a manager of local restaurants, up here in New Hampshire, as well as some in Maine and even down in Massachusetts, where we're originally from. And so he had a love for food. He was philanthropic and he was freaking fun. And so when he died, we really didn't know how else to continue to connect with him, but food was that big connector for us when he was here. And so it was almost this like organic transition for us to just do it. We cooked as a family. I mean, I say that I wasn't a food service employee, so to speak, but we cooked together. We built recipes together. We shared time doing that together. So now that we do it in his honor, it's just kind of like seamless, right?
Yeah.
Simplistic.
Can you take me back to that moment when you and your siblings said like we need to do something? Like what were you feeling? What was going on?
Yeah, so I think when someone passes, especially like tragically, and he was our youngest sibling, so he was 29, and so an unexpected sibling loss. Not that there's tears to grief or loss, but that's one of those ones that hits different, right? You quickly become part of this club that you never wanted to be in, and you don't know how to handle it. But once you start to find people that are part of that club, you kind of learn how to move forward with this loss. And so for us, it was about finding our community of people that could understand how we were feeling, right? And how to move, instead of moving on from it, how to move forward with it, right? And so
what exactly, I mean, obviously, like I can only begin to imagine what you were feeling, but can you get, like, what is it that you were feeling that you felt like you needed to other people?
Yes, so you immediately feel, for myself personally, I can only speak to my own experience, right? I would never offer advice for someone because I think that we all come from different backgrounds and situations, and so you experience loss differently.
Yeah.
So for me personally, it was instantly socially awkward, right? So I'm this very social, outgoing type of person, and I became introverted almost immediately, right? And so you start to walk through life with this fog where you're watching people move on. You're watching people live their normal lives. You're going to Target and getting food and groceries and things, and you're wondering how everyone around you just seems to be okay, right? So you watch happiness with people and you find yourself not just envious of that, but almost angry, right? Like, how can you just be here and be okay? How are you just at this cashier and not thinking like, okay, next step, go to the car, next step, go home. So I think that for me, it changed who I was at this like such an organic level that I didn't know how to handle it because I pride myself on being my complete authentic self. And so it was like now finding my new self, right, with this. And so I think that my siblings and I both, all of us, handled it similarly, but finding those people that could understand how we were feeling, finding the people, those little corners that we could actually talk about these things, right? Because I also think that not a lot of people want to talk about the fact that your brother died. Right. They ask questions that you don't actually want to answer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I found myself even holding back in this moment.
Yeah.
Like,
don't.
Right?
No, don't ask me anything.
Well, I mean, like, is there like it's almost like intrusive to ask, but like what happened?
Yeah.
Like,
so he died.
He
died of a fentanyl overdose.
Oh no.
Yeah. So he And it's important in our work that we do now to destigmatize this everything, right? So I appreciate you asking, and I'm in a spot personally where I'm comfortable with you asking. So please do it because it helps other people.
Well, I think it offers context too, and I think it's important that we talk about these things.
Of course. You know. What are we going to do? Hide it, and then and then everyone's going to be socially awkward in Target. Okay. Right. So, so he was 29 and had been dealing, with a drug addiction for a while, right? He had a back injury in college and started Percocet. I mean, the story is told a lot, right? Yeah. And what was different was, I think that when he died, or even when he was living and struggling with his addiction, nobody really knew. It's so covered in shame that I think people don't talk about it, which is probably honestly why he's not here today, right?
Yeah. What was that series that came out on Netflix, like Dope Sick, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that series did an amazing job.
Agreed.
Just showing that these people are victims.
Yes.
These are dangerous drugs that pharmaceuticals.
And also my brother had a full-time job.
Yeah.
And a girlfriend and a very supportive family that knew the fight that he was fighting and supported him in everything. Right. So he had relationships. He had privilege. He had, a job he was able to hold down and was giving back to his community. Right. While dealing with this very difficult disease.
So you're processing this, you and your siblings are processing this, and you said we wanted to find a way to talk about it or to kind of just therapy.
Yeah.
Why was a nonprofit the solution to that?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't right at first. I think that we have a saying, what would Red do? Right? Because that's his nickname. So we always ask, what would he be doing? And so for us, it was well, if he was here with us right now, what would he want to do? What can we do that he no longer can? Mm-hmm. What gifts can we give him for the gifts that he gave us of having almost 30 years with him?
What would Red do?
What would Red do? And Red would start a freaking food truck that gave free meals away, right? And I don't think that immediately came to mind. Like I said, we volunteered a few places and did some things, but it just felt about us. It felt like everyone was wanting the ego, that emotional buzz of giving back. And we weren't seeking that, right? We weren't seeking the attention of being awesome volunteers.
What were you seeking?
We were seeking to honor our brother and to connect with him because we couldn't anymore. Right. So how can we do this? Well, we can do something that he would do.
To bring his spirit, to be able to connect with his spirit. If you couldn't have him physically there, his spirit was there.
Correct, right. And to give the gift of what he would have given the world if he had been able to continue being here, So it's funny. One day I was driving in Northampton, New Hampshire, and I was in my car thinking about him, just trying to, drive. And I turned to my left and I saw an old, I think it's a P40 step van, right? So whatever a food truck would be, but it was run down for sure. And so it had a for sale sign on it. And I pulled over and I had some cash in my car and one check. And I said, how much? And the guy said $1,000. And I was like, nope. I was like, I got $100 here and probably 200 in my bank. So I'm going to write you a check, but whatever. But I knew in that moment that I was going to buy that truck. And I called my siblings and I was like, this is it. We're going to just do the freaking food truck.
And this was in 2019?
This was 2019.
Okay. So from when you got the food truck to when you actually started using it, how much time elapses?
Oh, I've never used that truck. Okay. Yeah. Well, so what happens when you don't have food truck experience and you buy this beat up piece of shit van is you get a quote that they say 75,000. And we were like, say what?
Right.
Yeah, that ain't happening. But we knew that it was the spark of what we should try to do.
You started.
So we started.
Yeah.
Right? So we just tried.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, fuck it. We're going to do it. So
it's amazing that first step. Once that first step happens, the natural thing is the next step.
Yeah.
Because you started.
Yeah. And we were so stoked about the idea, right? So then we had that oh my God, we have this truck. It's parked in my garage. And now we have a path. And so that felt awesome. And also we had something to throw our grief into, right? This awesome healing journey where we had something to distract us. So that's always nice. And so we started doing research and then COVID hit. And so almost immediately everything shut down.
Right.
Right. So we decided well, we're still going to continue doing the 501c3 paperwork because everybody told us the research that we found was that this gold standard, this 501c3, this is the way to go. Like,
why is that?
So now that I've learned, it's mostly because that's how you can get large donations that people can write off.
Okay.
So can you collect donations and have a mutual aid project where you give back 100%? And so had I had that knowledge at first, would I have started that way? Probably. But now I'm so excited that I didn't. Right? We didn't know any better. So we went for the gold standard.
What?
That I didn't know that
Okay.
that I could have just done it as a mutual aid project,
Got it.
right? I'm
So what is a
excited.
mutual aid project?
So basically, it's just a group of people or communities that are giving directly back to the community, but it's based in, not like public charity. It's not the 501c3 world. It's not regulated by those things. It's just like we're giving back. We're
Right.
doing good. So if you wanted to start something, I could give you $5. I'm not looking for you to tell me how you spent that money. I mean, I'd probably want to know, but I'm not going to say I need a tax write-off for that. Please give me a form to write it off on my taxes. I'm not looking for anything. I'm looking just to give to my community, and you're providing an opportunity for me to do that.
So with the 501c3, what additional stipulations come
So
along?
I'm tax exempt,
Okay.
right? So anything that we do is we're exempt from taxes, right?
Okay.
And also, if someone gives us $50,000 or $5,000, I let the IRS know that they've done that, and they get the tax benefits for donating to a public charity.
Okay. So they being the donator.
Yes. It also opens a lot of doors for corporate sponsors and things like that. If you
Got it.
want to make moves and bring in funds or in-kind donations, right? So like if a food provider wants to offer us 300 cheeseburgers or hamburger patties, we can write them a slip that says that was worth this to us, and they can be writing that off on their taxes as well.
So
Yeah.
sometimes I push back, and I don't know why, but I first and foremost want to preface this by saying the work that nonprofits do is amazing, and it's not that put a hit on the work that's being done.
Yeah.
But I think it's just the words that are being used, like
Agreed.
nonprofit. It's like profit's not bad. like
God, no. And I would love to make some. That'd be great.
Right.
I mean, the idea that I'm not making money, we are making money, right? I'm not ending the year at zero.
I think it's because I have this.
Hopefully.
I think it's because I have this underlying belief that doing good is good business.
Yes.
And that when you make profit, when you are profitable, you can do more good.
Agreed.
And I think that it's just a mindset around money that like people tend to think that like, oh, money is evil. It can be, but it can also be used to do a lot of good. It can be used to create opportunity for other people. It can be used
is
to
money bad?
provide security.
Or is greed bad?
Right.
Or is ego-driven
Right.
choices, financial choices?
Right.
This is where it gets muddy. Right?
So I guess
it's not
like
the money.
Right.
Money's
so like,
great.
Sometimes I think that like I operate like a nonprofit.
Yeah.
You know, because for me, it's like I've turned sponsors away because I don't feel right about promoting companies I don't know anything about.
Boom.
You know, so it's just like I'm here to serve the listener first and foremost, and like they're the priority, not my profit. So do I become a nonprofit? Like, should Restaurant Unstoppable be a nonprofit? Then
I feel like we should talk about this.
well, right. Like, so like, or does it make sense to have an element of Restaurant Unstoppable that's nonprofit? Like to start up, like the Restaurant Unstoppable that manages the nonprofit that's over here.
Yeah.
So like, I'm very interested in this, but at the same time, I'm like, well, if you are a nonprofit, like, can you make money? Is it like, so how does that work? Is it like a certain amount?
So, I mean,
are
there's
you capped?
Yeah, no. So personally, no one in our organization gets paid, right? So I'm a full-time volunteer as the executive director, co-founder, all the hats that I wear, $0.
Got it.
There's nobody that will ever get paid in our organization. We will never have a full-time paid staff. We'll pay professional fees as far as, if we need something done with our accounting or whatever, but not 1 cent goes towards a salary of any shape or form.
Is that regulated? Is that like a regulation?
Nope. That's a decision that we made.
Okay.
So this is that fine line where I actually agree with you that operating a nonprofit is like sticky and icky sometimes, right? And I think that other people do it differently because they have to. But larger organizations have to have paid staff, right? Because that's what makes it run. So they make a lot of money, right? And they pay people. It's like a regular business. It's just I guess what the nonprofit status really does is it allows them to get money. And then also we're regulated as to how we spend that money, right? So I have to, even though I don't pay taxes, I have to file forms with the IRS that tell them how much was given to me or to us, and who gave it to us. There are certain levels of funding that have to be reported in different ways. And so people can also restrict funding. So if you wanted to give me $10,000, you could say, I would like to give you this $10,000 gift, but I don't want it spent on this, this, and this. I want it to only go towards this particular program.
Got it. And
so you can restrict your funding. I also have to be fully transparent with my financials. But yes, we can make money. That's how we do what we do. I mean, it wouldn't work if I didn't continuously hustle for profit.
What up, Unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's the profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master of restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network. So you still have your full-time job if you're not taking profit from this?
Yeah, so I'm a nurse, and I'm lucky that the flexibility of my schedule allows me to do that. But I don't ever want to get paid. If that meant the end of Red's Good Vibes, then that would be the end.
So get more into how you decided to build Red's Good Vibes. So now that your business entity is a 501c3.
Yep. So we got that. So before the government shut down, I ended up getting our paperwork done and sent in, and literally a week and a half before it was Siblings Day, which is the craziest freaking thing. That's February crazy. Of 2020, we got our determination letter. So, and then the government shut down with less than a month later. So at that point we were like, okay, now we're a nonprofit. Now we can collect money.
Before you go forward, any advice on how to set up a 501c3 nonprofit?
1,000%. I have so much advice on that as a complete novice rookie who just did it. I mean, I did the paperwork myself with my siblings as well, but I had a 2-year-old at the time. So I do it at 11 to 1 a.m. I just ticky away on my computer.
How long did it take you?
2 weeks. It's not really that hard. But everybody told us at the beginning, and this is kind of where I'm excited to talk about how we've grown, because we grow with our own expectations, not from the expectations of others, because everyone told us, you're going to need a lawyer. You're going to need this. You're going to need that. It's going to cost you $10,000. And I started looking at it, and there's all of these awesome resources, which I would love to share.
Please.
With templates and advice that are given for. It's actually a nonprofit organization that runs this website that has templates that if you donate $50, you get all the templates.
What is it called?
And it's your, I'll have to, I wouldn't be able to quote it right now.
Let's definitely give them a
but
shout out.
I will give a link for sure. But it had articles of incorporation. It has your board of directors. It has all kinds of things that you need to do to form a nonprofit. And it tells you step by step. And there's forms with the IRS, and the IRS is actually really helpful. And I think that people get scared of that too, right? Money in the IRS. Eek. But they're awesome. You can call them up and they'll tell you how to do it. They have forms that are easy forms.
Right.
So if you think you're going to make less, it's just, there's a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's a general stigma too, that people see these government or state officials, IRS or whatever, federal, they're there to help you. They don't want you. They don't when you screw up, their life gets harder.
Correct. And if you just call them, they will spend the time to help you fix anything.
Yeah. You see it with permitting too, town and state permitting.
Oh, I got a lot on that too.
Don't wait until the last minute. Just be proactive, reach out. Because if you don't do the due diligence of being proactive, communicating and finding out what you need to do, you're going to be a week out from opening and realize that you can't.
Yes.
So
for sure.
Anyway.
Yes.
So
no, I think like there's a lot of different resources and things that are out there. And I think it just goes back to keeping it simple and trying. I mean, what's the worst going to happen, right? You didn't do the paperwork right. You didn't, like, they're there to help you.
Right.
So just try it.
Right.
And if you get stuck and you have to end up hiring the lawyer, great. But I didn't have the luxury of that. So we just did it.
Yeah. We have Pete off camera too. I gave him some homework. I said, Pete, look that up.
Yeah. He may not be able to find it. I'm going to have to go back way to like, it's not like a big one. It's definitely one that someone like, probably like someone like us is
I would do it if
from
my
behind the
computer
scenes.
wasn't so far.
Yeah. I promise I will link it.
Yeah, we will definitely share that resource.
Yeah.
So anything you would have done differently that you learned the hard way?
No.
Okay, cool. So 501c3.
I mean, we made mistakes, but I would not have done anything differently.
So you got the paperwork.
Yep.
Siblings Day.
Yep. So we did that. And then we started putting it out there on social media that we had started this nonprofit called Red's Good Vibes. And at that point, we didn't really know what it was going to look like. But we thought, well, if we get some money to put some money into this truck, then we can do that. So we started putting out posts. We reached out to a supermarket that I live next door to, McKinnon's. And we decided that we would pull up the truck, the beat up truck, and have like an event.
Okay.
And so we called it Stuff the Truck. And we were like, we're going to, instead of waiting to finish this truck, that's going to take us a long time to raise money for, we're going to collect some food and we're going to distribute it, right? Like we would if the truck was running. And so we decided to do like a food drive. And so we sat outside McKinnon's and we did this food drive, and we stuffed the truck with stuff, and then we started passing it out. We went up to Portland, and then COVID happened. And so everything shut down, and we were like, oh my God, food pantries are closed. Supermarkets are like, people have no food, and now they have zero access to food, or the food pantries that are providing services can't do that right now. So we put out a social media post on Facebook that said, we're going to go buy some groceries. If your family's in need, just send us how many people are in your family and your address, and we will drop groceries off at your door. That week, we had 125 families reach out to us. And so for a full year, actually a year and a half, we did between 80 and 100 deliveries per week for people throughout COVID. And even as the world came back, we still did it. And what we learned in that time was that people wanted the opportunity to directly connect to their community in a way that didn't feel icky.
Right.
We didn't ask any questions. We only needed how many people you had, so that we could gear the groceries towards the amount of people or like the ages, right? Like I want to give Oreos to kids, right?
Right.
So, I mean, to adults too, I love an Oreo. But like, we wanted to make sure that we could cater the groceries to their choice and preferences. But other than that, we didn't ask any questions, and people responded so well. And the amount of money and support that we raised, being 3 people in a garage, giving groceries away, was unbelievable.
So like you just basically said, like, we're trying to do this. If you have something to donate to us, and then we'll find the families in need.
Correct.
And how long was it just that?
About a year.
About a year.
Yep.
And the goal was still always to start a food truck.
So throughout that year, we were kind of like taking a little bit of money and squirreling it away for this food truck, and kind of doing what we can to start that process. And immediately we learned that the food truck that we had purchased was not the path. That was the idea, but not the path. So we went and looked for food trailers, which is what we figured would be an easier get, simply because if you have a food truck, you have a lot more things to be concerned with, engine and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, how can we keep this simple? We just got to pull it with the car that we have.
Yeah, that's a topic that comes up a lot on the show.
Yeah.
To start, like, I can't afford to open a restaurant, so it'll be way easier to have a food truck.
Oh God, they're money pits.
The logistical nightmares, dude.
Nightmare.
Yeah, so
nightmare.
Not always the easiest path.
No. Food trailer, way easier. 100 times easier.
Why? Beyond the obvious mechanical easier, like what else makes it easier?
I mean, for us, we were able to customize it from the beginning, right? So it didn't have this it was an existing structure. We actually purchased one from Georgia because that was where food trailers, I mean, it's warmer weather, right?
Right.
So their mobile food vending business is obviously a lot larger than it is up here in New Hampshire. So we got a food trailer, and we ended up being able to get it for $5,000. Wow. And it had a concession window cut in it. So that was all it was. So it was like particle board box with a window that we could tow with my Tahoe, which is great. So we drove that up here. And then we were able to like put what we wanted in it that made sense for what we wanted to do, right? So we didn't have unnecessary equipment. We didn't have stuff that we couldn't maintain. So we got simple equipment that met guidelines. And a big thing for us that although we're just a nonprofit food truck, right, essentially a mobile soup kitchen, right, we wanted to make sure that we had the gold standard permitting. So we get licensed as a food truck in every city that we're in the states that we operate as a food truck.
Why is that?
Because it's important for us to, again, destigmatize what we're doing, right? Just because the food is free doesn't mean it's shit food that you should just not regulate. I mean, we are serving everybody, but also part of that group of people is a very vulnerable population, right? That doesn't have access to the health care that we may, or that some of us privileged people will have, right? So I want to make sure that the food that they're being provided is good, quality food, right? I want people to know that the food that's coming out is from individuals that are ServSafe certified, right? That all of our people are trained, that our food trucks are permitted, and they are clean and providing good quality food. It's very important to us to have that gold standard.
I think just from the recipient too, to feel like they're being treated like everybody else.
Yeah, let's talk about it's like dignity, right?
You're not just it's not just people who need it, but it's welcome to everybody. Yeah. So like you feel like
but also in that like moment, right? Why is there a difference? Why should I get regulated food and someone that that lives outside shouldn't? I mean, are you kidding me?
Right. And I think just for the opportunity to stand shoulder to shoulder with everybody and not not to be segregated off to the side is like powerful in itself. Yeah.
And those are the moments. I mean, listen, I'll digress 100% on this podcast. You poor thing. You're going to be reeling me in. But part of the experience of Red's Good Vibes is that you come to the food truck and you don't know if the person having the meal next to you needs it because they haven't eaten in a week. Right? Or maybe they're just having a stressful day, or maybe they're there because they just learned about our food truck and they think it's great, or they walked by. And so having those moments where everybody's dining together, there's not about circumstances, it's not about situation, it's about human connection and putting each other first, and a dignified experience that's, choice and preference are at the forefront. I mean, even our menu alone, right? We have choices on our menu. It's not like you get what you get and you don't get upset because it's free. We have vegan options and vegetarian options, like it's preference driven. And so those moments are the ones where like we're onto something here.
I love that. So let's bookmark this, go back a little bit. 2020, you become a nonprofit, or was that 2019 you become a nonprofit?
2020.
Well, 2020, become a nonprofit. This gives you the ability to connect or to collect donations.
Correct.
Which you're then just taking donations in the form of free food.
And money. Tito's reached out to us like within those first couple of weeks and gave us $2,500. And then there was a family that came by. I'm not really allowed to say their name, but they're amazing, and I wish I could scream them from the rooftops.
John
but
Doe.
We'll call her Lauren Doe. She gave us $10,000. And we were like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But it really launched us into being able to build this food truck. So we worked with local contractors who donated their time. We also worked with the Dover Career Technical Center of the high school here in Dover. And the carpentry students built some things in our food truck. The electrical students put the electrical panel and everything in there. And so being able to connect with the community in that way, and to show a younger generation that you may not be a doctor or a lawyer and a nurse and all of these things that people associate with helping people. You can actually be an electrical student who's going to be an electrician someday. And actually you put the electrical work that now has fed, we have just under 500,000 meals served. So those students did that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So, so you're collecting these donations. The money donations at this time, is that mostly going towards squirreling that away to be able to get the food truck? Was that
no? Mostly we're purchasing food still at that point in bulk, and so we're purchasing food, putting a little bit away. Purchasing food, putting a little bit away, and then if we get donations of food from supermarkets or things like that, food waste, we're able to kind of put that in the bags too, to reduce the amount of money that we have to be spending on food, and we'll put it towards the food truck.
So in the first year, you only had one place where the donations were coming in, and that was in Portsmouth?
No, we had a little segment on local TV. And so donations were pouring in because I think that people were home from COVID and really wanting to give back, and saw that we were doing something. And so it was a lot of $5, $10, $15 donations from people that built what we did the first year. I mean, we raised $17,000 for that food truck, and that's what we built it with. So it only took us 17 grand.
Yeah. I want to focus on the evolution from here, because I know now that you have refrigerators, right? Like, tell me what you have now. It's two food trucks.
We have two food trucks. One of our food trucks we leased from the city of Dover for $1 a year.
Okay.
It's an amazing collaborative relationship that we're really freaking proud of.
That's awesome.
And psyched about. And so we have two food trucks that operate throughout New England. And then we have a network of community fridges that we support. And so a community fridge is a mutual aid project. It's not necessarily a charitable one. But starting a community fridge can be something that's, again, people hesitate with. So we provide the general liability insurance. We work with people to find locations. We sign the agreements with the locations. We also pay for the fridge and the initial infrastructure and help them set it up. And so it's a fridge that's open 24/7, accessible by anyone. The model is basically take what you need, share what you can. And so it's not, I don't fill the fridge with food from Red's Good Vibes. I mean, I do. When we have an event and we have food waste, we bring ready-made meals over, but it's operated for the community by the community.
So it's an extension of Red's Good Vibe food truck, where there's refrigerators where people can make donations to the refrigerator, and they can also take from the refrigerator.
Correct.
How many of those do you have now?
So we have so let me clarify, because they're not our fridges, right?
Oh, okay.
So this is where I like to differentiate, because of how you and I collectively feel about nonprofits in general. So we do provide the structural support that these community members need, but this is not our concept. This is not our original idea. This is something that people have done in Europe and all over the United States. They're doing it everywhere. And the Seacoast Fridge here in Kittery, Maine is the one that brought the concept. And once they did it, we started to support them. And then we realized that we could use our 501c3 to back community members to do these projects. And so we don't like to take credit for the fridges, but we like to let everybody know that we're operating a network of them and supporting communities to do it. So with that being said, we have Seacoast Fridge in Kittery, Maine. We have another in Exeter, New Hampshire, and there's one going here in Portsmouth within the next couple of days. The fridge was just delivered. So
where do these fridges? Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, so we have about 15 more that are going in.
Awesome.
And we have one that we hope to bring into Oregon, and then one in Connecticut. So it's actually not something that we need to physically be there, which is this like passive impact piece, which we're growing into now.
Can spread far, right?
Yeah. I mean, because we're not running them. We're just providing the backing so that community members can easily transition into being able to do something in their community.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you got the two food trucks, the soon-to-be 18 refrigerators.
Right?
Are those just like in does somebody like host the refrigerator? And
yeah. So we work with mostly community centers,
Okay.
because we want them to be able to be accessible to anyone 24/7. So they have to be really open for like people to be in and out of their parking lots. So they're community centers. We have one at the YMCA.
Is that the one in Exeter?
That's one in Exeter.
Okay.
Yeah. And then housing authorities, complexes and things like that, they can house them too. But it's just basically someone that would be willing to allow us to have a fridge there. It's outside. It's just a regular garage ready fridge. And we build a structure around it so that it's protected, and also so that like non-perishable things can be put in it, like the pantry.
Got it.
Yeah.
So the refrigerators, the food trucks, anything else that we should know about in terms of what you are today?
I mean, yeah, we are an idea machine. So what we do is we like to pilot an idea and then hand it off to people that want to run with it. So we've done a couple school programs, based on food access without stigma.
Okay.
Things like that. So supporting mutual aid projects is really our big thing now.
So when did the first food truck become operational? That's kind of, I think, where we left off.
February 2021.
February 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So take us through that learning curve of like
Yeah.
the first food truck things. Like if people want to recreate this, and one thing I love about what you're doing
Yeah.
is that like you're not saying like this is our idea, we want to do it, like don't steal our idea. Like you want more people to
Oh
do
God,
this.
yeah. I don't want any more food trucks, but I would love to have other people start.
So
them.
what I'm trying to pull out of you, just
Yeah.
so you understand my intention, is
Yeah.
like what did you learn about how to do this? And
Yeah.
there are food like operations all across the country listening
Yeah.
to this. Like I'm hoping I'm inspiring other people to
Yeah.
to do something similar with
Listen, I've learned being in the food industry now that this is something that existing restaurants or people that understand what goes into building a kitchen, right, they can do rather seamlessly. And even if you are for profit, there's no reason why you can't have, free Wednesdays or whatever.
Right.
So the things that we learned is that, obviously equipment and things like that we're purchasing, we didn't know anything about that stuff, but we needed to know like what we wanted to do. And so it was important to us to know what type of food we wanted to provide, right? And we knew that we just wanted it to be our family's recipes at first, right? So we got our griddle, we got a range, and we got an oven. It was like in fridges, obviously, but like keep it simple was the like big, huge thing. Also working with the municipalities and the permitting agencies. Like we talked about how these people are not scary. They're here to help you.
Right.
So before I purchased anything, I had them on call. I mean, I was talking about light switches with the city of Dover for like months. I mean, the poor guy answered every question that I had, but he really helped us set up a food truck that met every standard. Right. So like figuring out what's the top standard? What is that? How do I reach that? And building there instead of starting somewhere in the middle so that you're constantly playing catch up, right? So now I'm confident that every time I bring my food truck for an inspection, we're good.
Got it. I think what I'm curious about from like a nonprofit's like perspective as you're growing this, what is your behind the scenes like operations look like? Like
Yeah, it's a
maybe
mess.
you're a restaurant that like is inspired by this. You want to start your own C3
Yeah.
or 501c3, or maybe you just want to do a 501c3 from scratch and you don't have a restaurant. But like, how are you like spreading awareness? Like, how do you go about like what are the rules associated with it?
Yeah.
Like, is there a limit on what every customer can take, or like do people abuse you, and how do you manage that?
Well, so we practice what we call giving freely.
Okay.
So for us, and I have to speak just for us because it wouldn't work necessarily with a restaurant that's for profit, right? I mean, I have thoughts on that. So ways that a for-profit restaurant or existing food provider can work with people like us to give back is very different than how we give back, right? We have no limits. We give what we have. Someone can come up and order 15 sandwiches and nobody says anything. We give them the 15 sandwiches. If we run out, we run out.
Right.
Right. We've done what we came for. We provided food and we did it without stigma, barriers, or questions. Right. But for us, I'm just going to be honest. From the beginning, I thought restaurants would be the ones that would support us the most. I was so excited. And I can't tell you how many calls I made where the phone was hung up on me, or I was told, no, we don't have the capacity. We don't have this. And I was not asking for anything really, especially at the beginning. And so I was confused as to like why people in the food service industry wouldn't want to give food. And I really had to think, well, I mean, there's like, we were talking about it yesterday, that like the people that are working for restaurants or own restaurants, right, are struggling themselves.
I was going to say, are you
Right?
still confused? As to
Yeah,
why?
no, but also I think the ask was, was more, can you work with me, or can you help me figure out how to do this? And there really wasn't that. And I started to realize that it was just a mentality of like, fuck, we're just surviving. Like, I got to figure this out. I can't be even thinking about how to help other people right now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that, because I feel like people just assume that restaurants make money hand over fist.
This is what I'm saying. Right.
Like if they're doing 10%, that's huge.
Yes.
Like like if you're doing 15%, you're in the top 1% of the 1% of like restaurants that are operating. Most restaurants are scraping to get by. They aren't. They need donations.
Or how about the fact that the people that are working there are also the people that might really benefit from my food truck.
Right. And like, I think for some reason people think that, oh, like we should go to restaurants for donations is like the first thing they think of. And like, they're also the most generous generally, you know?
So here is where I say my approach was wrong. My thought process was wrong. I was coming from a different place. And I'm the first person to admit that, right? I love the fact that I can say, oh no, I was asking the wrong questions. I was assuming things that I shouldn't have. And now as I do it, we work with a lot of different restaurants, right? And restaurants, honestly, a community fridge is a great concept for a restaurant, right? Because what do we have? 40% food waste, right? And so instead of throwing that food out, taking an opportunity to package it up, put a couple meals in a community fridge, but also highlight that you did that. Showcase your support, right? Let's promote each other. Again, we're talking about like self-promotion is not a bad thing. We want you to make money as a restaurant. We want you to show that you can support a community fridge because it only helps the cause and it helps you. Right. You're directly connecting to your community by doing that. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be 5 meals. It can be the extra onions that you guys cut up for prep.
So the pivot was going from, hey, like give us money to, hey, help us with save your waste.
Yeah. And I think also just the approach, right? Instead of an ask, it was like how can we help each other? You know, what are you struggling with? Because here's what I'm struggling with. So what are you struggling with, right? So instead of these like, well, hello, I'm a nonprofit and here's your awesome opportunity to give back to your community that I'm giving you. It became like shit, what are you going through?
How can I help you?
How can I help you?
First seek to understand, then seek to be understood.
Yes.
Find win-win situations.
Yes.
7 habits of highly effective people come into my mind right now.
Exactly. Right. So restaurants with us now, you know, they'll provide us with food or they'll do a truck takeover, which is one of our favorite things to do, where the staff of a restaurant will come out and volunteer on our truck. You're going to be a guest chef on Red's Good Vibes food truck and you're going to come work my grill for the day.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's giving of your time, your passion, your experience, more so than giving from your wallet or your abundance, because I was just assuming you had abundance, but perhaps you don't.
Yeah.
Right?
The restaurant industry is really good at projecting abundance.
Yeah, I mean that's the idea, right? You gotta,
yeah, like we're creating an experience. It's like the duck on top of the water looks so cool, calm, collected, but below the surface, like they're just trying. Those little feet are going.
Yeah.
So when these restaurants are donating their leftover food, are they also saying there's approximately $100 worth of value of food here, so they have a tax write-off, or?
You can.
Okay.
So for us, if someone's giving us an in-kind donation, right? So that's like quality enough food that I can put it on my food truck, right? So we had a sponsor, D. Luigi Foods. They gave us their excess like meat, they're a meat production or, you know, whatever company. And so we would get like 500 sausage links from them. You're damn right. I'm giving them a sheet that says, how much was that worth? Because you just gave me that for free.
Right.
So what did you lose out by giving that for free?
Yeah.
And so I love the opportunity to be able to do that. And then they can write it and then also showcase their support.
And the best practice is to package it as like a meal with your branding on it. Is that what people are doing?
So
like a to-go order?
Yeah. So if you're going, depends on who you're giving it to, right? So if you're giving it to one of our community fridges or a community fridge in your area, right? Because we don't own them. So it could be anywhere. If you have a community fridge in your community, the general like way to do it is to package it in single serve meals, or if you have just extra prepped items, put them in a Ziploc bag, put those cut onions in a Ziploc bag, label onions, use by, and put them in the fridge. And if I was a restaurant and I was doing that, I would for sure either put my label on it or I would take a picture of supporting a community fridge.
Right.
And I would post that on my social. And that community fridge, they're going to share that.
Right.
Right. And so again, you're showcasing that support. You know, as far as like an in-kind donation to a community fridge, you're not going to get a tax write-off for that. But if you reach out to someone like me or a food pantry or other people that are providing ready-made meals, because there's other people doing similar things to what we're doing, that's considered an in-kind donation. And for sure, your relationship with that nonprofit, you can get a tax benefit from that, as well as promoting yourself as supporting the community.
Got it.
Yeah.
What else? I feel like I'm so unfamiliar with this model that I don't even know what questions to ask you. So like, what do you think we should be discussing right now? What do you want to discuss? What do you want to make sure
for us, it's always the message. And I think that like you and I are on a different trajectory than I typically get to do, with like a podcast or an interview,
Different
right?
target audience.
I love it. Right. So it's an opportunity for me to connect with people, because for us going forward, our growth is with passive impact, right? So like I said, I can't personally, we can't handle 4 more trucks. Right.
You have a full-time job.
Yeah. And we're all volunteer.
Right.
And we want it to stay like that. So
and you do it once a week?
No, we're out like 3 or 4 times a week.
But it started as once a week.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
It was. Yeah.
So when did you make that shift to go?
Oh, so some weeks we do 2. Some months we're slow and we need to take a break, and then other months we're doing simultaneous events. Right. So we have 2 trucks. We have a couple teams.
Right.
So we have the ability to be like, you can be there and I can be there.
And all these people are donating their time.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But
I should say too, one of the ways that we work, which I think is a good thing to talk about here, is that we also utilize our trucks to make money.
Well,
right?
That's the private events.
Yes.
Okay.
So we do. Yeah. So we have a program called Get One, Give One. And so basically you could hire us to cater your graduation party or corporate event, right? And so what we do is we take the food cost, what that would cost us, and we double that. And that's your suggested donation. And so we suggest that you donate that amount, because what that does is it gives you your event, but then allows us to give a similar event back to the community.
Okay.
And so
you're basically sponsoring a free meal. Or like a bunch of free meals.
Right. A bunch. Yeah. I mean, we're at like a $2 meal cost right now. So we run pretty.
So if you have but not all private events are created equal. So if you have
Correct.
a massive, like you have 200 people at this, like we're feeding a bunch of people.
Correct.
Then that's a bigger impact that you can make on the community.
100%.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How are you profiting from that if you're just turning around and bringing it back?
Well, I mean, we call that profit, right? So that allows us to, it's not dollar for dollar, right? So I'm not like going to say, okay, so we did this corporate event and now we're going to immediately take this same event and we're going to do it in Dover, right? So we say like it's the Get One, Give One is just basically like, that when you're hiring us as your food truck, you're not just hiring us for the food that you're getting that day. You're hiring us to provide that same food or similar food to the community.
It's kind of like the Tom's model.
Yes, 100%.
Instead of profiting, you're not. You're
which is where
back.
it would work with a regular restaurant, right?
Got
Which
it.
is where I see us. Like we are working with a restaurant in Littleton, New Hampshire, who has a food truck.
What's it called?
They're not willing to put it out there
food
yet.
By any chance?
It is not.
Okay, because ironically, I'm going to Littleton, New Hampshire for an interview, and I'm like, what are the
I will
odds?
tell you off the podcast because
Okay.
they are currently not ready to get the
Please,
attention that
yeah.
they have. But believe me, I really want to tell you. Okay. But they're doing something really awesome, right? They reached out to us and said, we have a food truck. We were running it throughout COVID. We also have a brick and mortar. We're not really using our food truck. We don't, we're not really doing it. We're making it by with our brick and mortar and we can't handle much more. But we want to be able to do what you're doing with our food truck. And I said, they want to start their own nonprofit and all these things. And there's an opportunity that people don't realize that you don't necessarily need to be a 501c3. You can find a fiscal sponsor. So if you find someone that has a 501c3 like myself or Reds, who would be willing to fiscally sponsor you, we can take donations for you and distribute that money directly to you. And basically we're telling the IRS, like, we're taking in the donations, we're counting it towards our pot, but we're making sure that it's being distributed to a group that is doing something that aligns with our mission, and we're monitoring that.
Okay.
Right?
Do you have to do anything regulatory to monitor it?
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't just say we're monitoring.
No. So basically, we work with them as far as like having accounting procedures that have to take place. I mean, we have standards that come with the 501c3. And so as long as they're following those standards with them and we're able to monitor that, then it's good.
Okay, so go back to what this restaurant.
So they have decided that they're going to use their food truck for profit, but that they're going to run specific days that will be nonprofit.
Okay.
So they're going to have free events. And so they're going to work with, so they're finding that working with other restaurants to get food waste, to capture that, to process the food and be able to hand it out for free. Right. So they're working with permitting and what that looks like to be able to do that on a regular basis.
And where does your money that you're distributing to them go? Is that to purchase the food or?
Yeah, they're not at the point where they can purchase things as of yet. They're not running it as a nonprofit yet. But basically, anything that came in donation wise could go to their permitting costs, could go towards operating that portion of their business.
Got it. Right. I want to get a little bit more into like the on-premise day of, how you handle that. Like, so people come that you said they can order however much they want. Do you just stay open until you sold out? Like, what's the model?
So we generally do we'll serve for 2 hours. So sometimes it's 1 to 3, 11 to 1. And we set the menu for that day. We don't have a specific type of cuisine that we'd stick to. Something we do in the winter is we always cook a soup from scratch. So we will park our trailers about 2 hours before the event starts. And we do that because we prep everything on site.
Also create awareness, like, oh, it's parked, like,
correct.
There it is. Yeah.
Yes. And for us, it provides the fresh, ready-made, awesome food that we put out, but also it reduces the like need for me to be in my commissary kitchen and things like that. So, right. So if I prep on site in my commercially licensed kitchen, so I do that for the 2 hours, and then we serve for about 2 hours, just like any other food truck. We take orders. We got, a line. I run Expo. I can be quite demanding as a boss.
So I'm curious because I'm under the impression for certain operations you need a commissary.
I have a commissary kitchen.
Okay, so you do what you can in the commissary because you can't do everything in the food truck, right?
Depends on what I'm serving,
okay.
Right? So if I'm just doing burgers, fries, a soup from scratch,
okay,
I just buy my product that morning. I pick it up and I go and I cook it on my commercial kitchen. If I'm doing something in advanced prep, I have to utilize a prep kitchen or my commissary kitchen, which we have at Kitchen Local in Amesbury, Mass.
Got it.
Yeah.
So like for the things that, like, what falls under the realm of advanced prep?
Like if I wanted to cut up onions before I got there.
You can't do that on site.
I can do that on site. I just can't do it outside. Like I couldn't do it at home.
Right.
Right.
So if anything you want to do to streamline process to make it easier day of, you have to do that in the commissary.
Yep. And we have a warehouse that, we have fridges and freezers that we are permitted to hold product in. So we can go down to the commissary, do what we need to do for prep. Maybe we'll do 50 pounds of onions, right. Chop them up, throw them in the freezer.
Sometimes it's just easier to do it
so then
in
we
the
have
commissary.
them. Correct. Yeah. So, but we tend to keep it simple. And so prepping on the truck day of is ideal.
Got it.
And so sometimes that means catering the menu to make it simple. But we offer usually 4 menu items. One of them is always vegan or vegetarian. And then we have like preferences like, gluten-free, dairy-free, things like that.
Got
Keeping that in mind.
And what determines your menu is probably what do we have at our disposal today? Like
yeah. And what we're feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, seasonally, we really try to do fresh local ingredients if we can. We work with a lot of farms in spring and summer and fall. So we'll get like an abundance of peppers or, onions or greens and things like that. And so we'll cater menus to what we have. But again, free food should be good food. So we are really diligent about sourcing the best things that we can and being able to, we'll put out 600 meals in 2 hours, right? So we also operate with station-based operations. So because we have free labor, we have the luxury of being able to do that. So we'll have someone that's doing wraps and someone that's on soup and someone that's on Expo. So I'll have 4 people running that little kitchen. So food can come out really fast and really fresh.
Got it.
Yeah.
So in terms of 2 hours, everything's free. So you could be a millionaire and go and you're going to get a free meal.
Yep.
And you don't accept donations.
We do not. So while we're operating, we want everyone to just have the fun food truck experience. So you come up, you order. If you try to pay, we say no thank you. If you try to donate, I say no thank you. If you try again, I'm going to look you in the eye and I'm going to say absolutely not. Take your cheeseburger and go. Because we really don't ever want anyone to feel like they need to put $1 in the bin. The whole experience is curated to feel inclusive,
right,
and like community and connected. And so we don't do that. And I think a lot of people said that was a wrong choice because we were going to be leaving money on the table. And we said it was money with strings that we didn't want anyways.
Right.
And it has not hindered operations.
What do you mean by money with strings anyway? Do you think that when people come and they donate, they expect something in return?
No, the strings there are not like strings that come with sometimes like federally and state money, which we don't get anyways, really. But it's the strings of the emotional buzz, the strings of the, it's connecting people to their lived experience in a way that is negatively impacting them, right? So the person behind you sees you put $1, they immediately
feel guilty.
They can't.
Got it.
Right. So then we're throwing them back into, their personal experience that we don't know anything about.
So do you encourage more medium to high income individuals to attend your events, or would you rather do you ever not have enough food for people in need? I guess is my thought.
Yeah, of course. Right. I mean, I would be silly to sit here and say that we're meeting the need, because we're not. I mean, we're meeting a need. We're meeting some of the need. But again, it's like to think that we are going to be the ones that are going to solve hunger. That's just not the case, right? I'm not setting out to do that. And so for us, what happens, the impact that we can put out into the universe when someone comes to the truck that doesn't actually, quote unquote, need it, right, is greater than serving that additional meal to someone in need. Because I feel like when they come to the truck, they turn around and they leave with something that's going to ripple. Right? So they're going to be the ones that have the privilege, that have the abundance to be able to help people. And once they realize that they're at a free meal food truck and that they don't know the 27 people in line behind them, if they need it or they don't, but they're looking at people that they thought were coming to a paid food truck, right? It's an experience. It's a moment if there's goodness in them, which we believe there is in everybody, something clicks. They're the ones that call me and give us $10,000 to serve 20,000 meals.
What's your inspiration for this instinct? Or I guess you don't have inspiration for instinct, but like I feel like you have something deep in you. You understand the human side of the connectivity. Like how do you know what you know to be true?
What up, unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's the profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master on restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
I think at this point, I can stand firm that doing what we've done for as long as we've done it, which isn't a long time, that we have learned from the people that we're serving. So I'm including that in my lived experience, right? So I take knowledge from everybody that comes to our food truck, whether they, again, need the service or not. But also we come from a family that really would have benefited from this food truck. Right. And so we're also come from an experience of shame and stigma. I mean, we talked about my brother and how, basically I would say that he is not here with us because of shame and stigma, right? Had he been open about the fact that he was still using, we could have maybe kept him safer. Right. So knowledge is power in all avenues of life. And it's the same here. And I think just believing in that, being authentic to who we are. You see it. It's not hard.
If we're in the experience economy, the restaurant industry is an experience, like the product that we deliver is experiences. What experience is it that Red's Good Vibe is delivering?
Oh, fun. Yeah. Good vibes, right? We curate this experience to feel empowering, energetic. Listen, I swear so bad on that truck and I try hard not to, but you are getting this like fun experience where you don't feel any different than the person next to you. So inclusivity, right? All of those things. And I think restaurants provide that in their way. Why can't we do that for free?
Right. And I think that's what I was getting at is that you said inclusivity, but I was thinking connectivity.
Yeah, of course. Comfort.
Right. And I think that the restaurant industry provides so much more than food.
Yeah,
It's even
sure.
in like the for-profit realm, like you're creating a place for community,
Yes.
for people to come together,
Yeah.
to be seen, to be appreciated, to not just be seen by the staff, but to be seen by the community, to have a place to go, a third place, to be with your people, to unplug from the day, to talk about the news, to talk about, I think we should talk more about politics. Like, I think
Don't get me started.
But like a place where we can come, the public house, I echo this so much. My poor listeners, like, here he goes again.
Yeah.
But the public house
Yeah.
was a place, a pub, it was a place to go to get your news, to get your entertainment, to get your mail, to get your politics, to get everything. And we now do that all on the internet, and we're missing something, the connectivity, the inclusiveness.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing is so special, because for somebody who can't or doesn't have the privilege to go to a public house or to a restaurant, they don't have that place to go to be connected. And when you say, no, this is free for everybody, you're providing that opportunity for them to be shoulder to shoulder with their community without the stigma. And I think that is so powerful from a mental, you're feeding souls.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we really are in the experience industry of, to feed the human connectivity that is so void today.
Yeah. Listen, we are just a food truck that is able to do it free. So we have the privilege of not having to have the stress that comes with making it all work, because you're putting food on the table for yourself too, right? By owning a restaurant and operating it. For us, if the money runs out, if we can't do this anymore because we can't handle it, or we have the privilege of being like, okay, we came and did what we did. So while we're here doing it, while we're here having the privilege, we're going to be that freaking food truck, that same experience, the same thing that you can provide as a restaurant owner or a food truck owner. And we're going to get to do that for free. We recognize that as like a serious privileged position. And so to be able to provide what food service industry people are providing to everyone is, like you said, it's a freaking moment.
Right.
And it is exceptional to watch. And it is like, it's so crazy. It's like literally what dreams are made of, to sit there and serve cheeseburgers to people and watch them eating them together. And now I know some of their stories, right? Because they've shared them with me and connected with me in that way. But to see them be able to live as a human first, as in peer relationships and community driven, rather than have to lead with their circumstance. They don't have to say, oh, I need this because of this. They don't have to. They can talk about the Patriots game with someone over a cheeseburger at our food truck. It's pretty exceptional.
I love that.
Yeah.
What's the vision?
Oh, the
Because
vision.
you said you're a dreamer, right?
I am.
Idea factory.
Dude, we're in the dreamer stage, which is really cool. Again, we're launching Passive Impact. The idea is to find opportunities to take what we've been able to learn and experience and pass that on to people. I would love to see a food truck in every city that's able to give for free, but also like maybe it's not our model. Maybe it's me being able to sit down here with you and be able to say like, well, what's your idea?
I hope you get a lot of calls from this conversation, because we have a wide audience of restaurant, thousands of listeners per episode across the country who I know you're
epic. That's awesome.
Resonating
Good for you.
with. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So what?
I want a
Passive
call that
Impact.
says I got 20 meals. Maybe I could give away a week. What's the best way to do that? I'm going to say, find your local community fridge. Oh, you don't have one? Let's start one.
So yeah, but get more into Passive Impact.
So Passive Impact for me is being able to take our 501c3, something that we've worked with, and allow people to utilize that foundation to do what they want to do. Not even just our model. Use our 501c3. Call me and say, hey, I want to do this. Yeah, I want to do this. And let me help you to fund your dream, or to figure out how the best way for you to connect directly to your community. Maybe it's not through a food truck, but maybe it's through a meal program, or maybe you have a kid at school that you really, you want to connect with the school. We do school programs sometimes where I had an idea that I wanted to be able to provide food for free for kids that would need it, but also not have them have to opt in for it by giving me like their demographics and credentials. And so we offered the program to the whole school.
Got it.
It was opt out, right? So how do you you have an idea that you want to do something like that, doesn't have to be about food even, whatever it is, call me, let's figure it out, because I'm just a regular person that did this. We don't have this experience that, I didn't go to school for nonprofit operations, but I sure know how to operate one now.
Yeah. I love that.
So let's be rogue. Let's be gritty. Let's do some shit. That's what I want to do. And I don't want to put my name on it. I would just like to be able to support them behind the scenes and be able
have
to
contact
start a
information
movement.
at the end, so we know how to get hold of you.
Start a movement. That's what we're going to do.
So the mission statement is to change the world through inspiring, empowering, and transforming the restaurant industry.
Love it.
What do you think needs to change in the world we live in? Like, if the restaurant industry is going to change the world, how do we do that?
Transparency.
What does that look like?
I mean, that looks like we talked about, right? Like, there are people out there that were just like me, right? Calling up restaurants of people that I thought were extremely successful in their own right, or I should say, they're successful, but maybe the typical, what we would say is successful, right? That their bank account's full, because that's what success is, right? But being able to have real conversations with people and start those conversations. So be transparent. Let's get together in groups. I mean, we talked about a little bit about this off of the podcast, but let's get together. Let's talk about what we've learned. Let's open up and be honest. Let's support each other in a way that says, okay, we're struggling, but so are so many others. How can we do good? Like you said, you help yourself by giving back. You change the way that we approach giving back to others, and realize that it doesn't have to be necessarily self-promoting, but it's mutually beneficial.
Right. No, I mean, you're resonating with me so much, and especially with that word transparency. So Terry Merrill told me to get in touch with you. I just want to say Miller. I'm sorry, Terry. Terry Merrill told me to get in touch with you during our interview when I had her on the show. Yeah. We have since gotten together, and she's, she said, like, during or after our interview, she wants to get involved. And when she said that, my ear is just like I'm
telling you, she's starting a community fridge.
Yeah. She's really somebody, I don't know how she does it, but
she's crazy.
Yeah. I
mean, we all are. That's how it happens.
So, to your point, like when we were talking, we got together, I was there yesterday, and I was like, I want to do something here in New Hampshire. I spent the past 10 years of my life going everywhere else, learning like in every community, like, what are they doing? And seeing how, like, getting into the community to realize that restaurants aren't just in the four walls. They're a part of the community. Yes. And there's a community of restaurants, and that there's this clear pattern that the leaders across the nation in their communities are the people that talk to each other. Yeah. The people that don't look at the competition down the street as being, they're not competition. I mean, there's friendly competition, but they're my partners. They're my collaborators. They're my community of restaurant owners. Yeah. And I think that we put this facade out there of like, we have our shit together. Like we are so good. Like, I don't know if it's I sometimes think it's associated with like this award culture, or this like we're transporting people, like we don't want them to know that we're really struggling. It's like ego.
Ego, that's the word there. Yeah. And that's like, my favorite one.
If we're gonna change the world, any change starts from the inside out.
Of course.
And I think that, like, if you want to change your business, it starts with you changing yourself. You making yourself better. You ripple out to your team ripples out to your community. And I think what Taryn and I are talking about doing is getting people together in the restaurant industry to just be transparent, to say, this is my challenge, this is my challenge. And then to share like collective knowledge, where we're just like, this is and I think you coming into my life, being on the show, is coming at a really good time right now, because I'm
She's so great.
Try it.
Look what she did, right?
Just try it.
Yeah,
like, what's the worst?
Try it.
And I think that's what Taryn and I are talking about doing, is like, how do we just how do we just get leaders from the community to come together, and also let anybody who wants to come, but bridge the gap between this generation leaders and the next, to break the negative cycles that happen in this industry.
Yeah. And I think too, like, you're talking a lot, and the word that keeps coming to my head is abundance, right? And so we talk about abundance when we're talking about money and food and things, but we don't talk about it like knowledge, right? So if we come together as a group and we're all transparent, all that's doing is creating an abundance of knowledge for us to collaborate and work as a team, which again is just going to
raises the bar.
Correct.
All ships rise with the tide. And if the
100%.
restaurant industry is rising,
Yes.
then communities rise.
Correct.
And
Listen,
it ripples
you guys
out.
are the places. We are the. I mean, I never include myself in that, but I am now. We are the places that people come to connect. I mean, so we're not going to connect?
Right.
How does it make any sense, right? We're preaching community, 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 but we're not acting like a community.
Right.
Right. And I mean, nonprofits do it too. I could talk to it about the charity world. This is like this weird tension about money and funders and all of these things. It's so weird. Right. But coming from an outside perspective and coming into it, now I get to say like, oh no, that's weird. We shouldn't be territorial here. Like if we work together, it's even better.
Right.
Right.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Anything
Awesome.
we did not discuss today that you were hoping would come out?
No, I mean, I'm here for the ride, man.
I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I got a couple standard questions to ask,
Yeah.
I guess, before we say goodbye. Lost my notes. There they are. What is one thing about you, your business, your mission that you think is unique that makes you truly unstoppable?
Oh shit. What makes me truly? What makes us truly unstoppable?
Yeah.
That we treat humans first. That's how we approach life, as treating people as humans first. And I think that that's something that can carry over anywhere in any industry, whether you're making money or not. But the big thing for us is that we trust in ourselves and we trust in our core beliefs. So we don't deviate at all. I tell lots of fun stories about how I've had to say no to big and powerful people or organizations, or how we stop ourselves from getting federal or state funding because we will not take data, right? So sticking with our core beliefs and treating humans as people as humans first is, that's at the foundation.
Do you have a list of core
everything we
beliefs?
do. No, it's basically humans first, give freely, and trust yourself.
Why wouldn't you take from a big corporation?
If it came with strings where they required me to provide them with data about the people that we serve. So when you file a grant request with specific people, it's not everyone. There's a lot of corporations that give to us in large contributions that don't require the funding to be restricted to us giving them information. But a lot of like state or federal programs will want to know where people live, how much money they make.
But that's a state or federal, like big corporations. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. So sometimes they want to make sure that their money is going towards specific populations of people.
Okay.
And so the only way that they can truly ensure that that happens is if they take data from the people that they're contributing to.
Got it.
Right. So they would ask me to monitor how many seniors are coming to our truck.
Why do you think that's bad?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. It's not for us.
Yeah. I mean, I think it also goes back but like the whole idea of nonprofits, like when you put so much stipulation and like red tape everywhere, and like we're a nonprofit that only gives to, I don't know, this minority or that person or this person. It's just like when you start building up those barriers, you isolate people,
Yeah. So I think it's for us as a nonprofit, right? We don't specify a particular community that we serve. And so I believe that there are nonprofits, especially with people of color or marginalized groups, that really do need to be specific about the people that they serve, because that's their mission, right? And so I want to support and fund those.
They would have to
far more so
track
than us.
it in order to give you the money, because they have to be able to track it back to their nonprofit.
Yeah, and
which is another thing about the nonprofits, where it's just like it just makes things complicated.
It's very complicated.
Can we just all agree to like that doing good is good business?
Yeah, I mean,
that's
that would be awesome.
To come full circle, like that's just how I feel.
Yeah.
I just feel like I think we just need to change, like, conscious capitalism. Like, we just need to change. Like, we live in a world that it's more easier than ever to be transparent. And like, that's one of the good things that I think is a byproduct of the internet, is that if you're a douchebag, the world finds out. So like, we don't need the protection of the federal state like I think we used to. And like, people are gonna find out.
So my thoughts are, right? So as far as like state, federal funding, there's a pot, right? And there's a limit to how much people from the federal government or the state are willing to give. And so if they need to ask, they should be asking, questions about who that money is going to, right? So I believe that if there's a large pot that has a limit, that money needs to be going to marginalized populations and people of color and people, from the LGBTQ plus, communities, because I feel like they need to make sure that money is going there,
right.
because what the fuck,
that.
they
Right.
need it.
Right.
And that's like bullshit for us to have to fight for that, but they need that. And as what I'm talking about is like the state programs that are like, we want to feed people in our community. But to be able to give you money, we need to make sure that you are serving people that are between 18 and 24 or whatever. Okay, great. I'm serving youth here. Yes, I am doing that. Do you know how I'm doing that? Because I'm working with peer connection support and I'm doing food truck events at their facility. So I know that I'm serving, unsheltered youth.
Right.
But that's not good enough. What they want me to take from the unsheltered youth is then all of their information, their demographics, so that they can take it back and figure out, I don't know what they want to do with the information. Maybe it's good things. Maybe it's going to provide more funding, all of those things. But that's not my plight.
Got it.
That's not my mission. My mission is to never ask a question of the people that I serve and give freely without limits.
Got it.
Yeah.
I get distracted.
Sorry, on a tangent. Sorry about that.
I was the one who went on a tangent. I
was like, it's a rough week anyway, so I'm like, let's talk about it.
So again, the mission of this podcast is to change the world through inspiring, empowering, and transforming the restaurant industry. Yes. How have you personally transformed? How is Caitlin a better woman today than she was in 2020 when she started this?
So we talk a lot about how I don't think I've changed very much personally. I think that goes back to that core belief, right, of trusting yourself and just like being who you are. But my view, my approach, my perspective is constantly changing.
How has it improved?
I mean, I'm looking at it from 10 different sides, right? I'm also realizing a lot more, and I realize this every minute of every day, especially right now, that I'm coming from a place where I need to shut up and listen. And that is a really powerful thing, to listen and then also have the ability. I also recognize I have the ability to do things like this, right? So if I shut up and listen and I'm able to take that information, that lived experience, and talk to you about it and spread it to the people that follow you, right? So I think I've changed in the sense where I have zero skin in this game as far as ego is concerned. There's not one bit of me that wants this to be the Caitlin show. Every bit of me is excited to provide a platform to people that we serve.
I love that. This is the last question.
Okay.
It's a doozy.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah, if you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure.
Okay.
With the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom you could leave behind for the good of humanity and your legacy, what would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
Can I just go back to my core beliefs? Am I allowed to repeat my? I was like, it just
I
happens. Those are 3, by the way. So yeah, treat people as humans first.
1.
Give freely.
2.
And trust yourself.
3. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. You've given us a lot of reason to reach out to you. So
fantastic.
If we are interested in what you're doing, we want to support, we want to get involved, what's the best way to connect? Head
right to our website, honestly, redsgoodvibes.com. All the information that you need to, whether you want to support what we're doing with the donation, you want to learn more about our programming, or you want to contact us directly, it's all there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Social handles?
Oh, it's just Reds Good Vibes. Oh, my TikTok is We Are Reds Good Vibes. And that is some pure entertainment there. That is some good shit. It's awesome. A 40-year-old woman in her, just dancing. Prime, trying to make it on the internet. Pathetic. It's sad.
And who do you respect and admire? This is how I found you. This is my North Star. This is how I find people and make an example.
So this one I did think about, right? So I figured since Taryn recommended us, that I would be needing to recommend someone else. And so I think that someone that is doing what we're doing more seamlessly, that would probably resonate a lot with the people that follow you, are John Burns and Mark Siegel, who's the head chef there at Folded. And it's Somersworth, New Hampshire. It's like a diner, breakfast and lunch place that is community focused, and their mission is to provide a supportive workplace for those in recovery or have had some justice involvement.
Yeah.
It's an amazing place, and I think that they would probably do a much better job of speaking to your followers than
Mark
I
Siegel
probably have.
is like one of the OGs in the Seacoast in terms of
sure.
like chefing and talent.
Yes.
And he's somebody his name has come up a lot, and I would love to get him on the show.
Yeah.
John Burns is new to me.
He's an executive director of a nonprofit organization that actually operates Folded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was he in the restaurant industry before that?
No.
So
No.
Mark is like more the
Mark is the head chef.
Got it.
He's the creative driving force, I think, behind it. But John Burns is the one that founded it, that pushed
Got it.
for it.
I think I'm gonna try to do 2 separate interviews on this one. I'm getting a twofer.
Oh, it'll be pretty rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Mark has a long story to tell.
He sure does. And what he's doing at Folded is really admirable.
Yeah.
And he's also connecting with a lot of other nonprofits that are addressing food waste. So I think he'd have a lot of things to say, about Gather, who's a food pantry here in Portsmouth, doing some pretty amazing things with food waste. So
Awesome.
yeah, so there's some connections for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Kaylin, this is where I say thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
taking the time to share your story, to share
Appreciate
your
it.
values, to share your perspective. And thank you for just trying
Thank you.
and for being a shining example of the impact food can have on people in a community.
Thank you so much.
This is where I say there is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Hell yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.